Really good.
I should play some music while we wait next time.
You mean live music?
Probably Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Commissioner Blumenthal.
Hello. Hello. Thought I was unmuted.
You are.
You are.
I guess I was unmuted and then muted again somehow. So I looked up and the red button was on.
I was throwing the agenda up there for the time being.
All right, Co-Chair Heimert, it is 2 o'clock.
All right. Should we wait a minute to see if others join?
Yeah, this seems pretty late.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's not that
Christophe,
bad. Sorry.
is Christophe here?
I do not see him on.
Because if he doesn't come, this is going to be pretty short.
Well, it certainly gets rid of part of the meeting. He often comes in a minute or two late. I don't know if he gets booked up with other things.
I'm going to send him a text.
For those of you who don't have your full name on the screen, if you can change that so we know who you are, that would be appreciated.
I think I'm the guilty party here.
There's a few. I'm not calling out any one person. I see a few people
No,
with
okay.
first name. You should be able to go up. If you click on the picture of you, there's 3 dots, and if you click that, then you can rename and type in your
Hey,
full name.
there's that. I don't see how to do that. I think. Oh, down here more.
Yeah, I guess it depends on whether you're on.
Yeah. I came in on the browser. That may have been my mistake.
Yeah, I know, but browser you should be able to do. I mean, you should be able to do it on anything. It's just maybe different. I'm just looking at
Show
on my
caption, record
Zoom.
record, add meeting info.
It may be clicking on your own name in the
Uh-oh.
image, and they may give you a choice where you can rename. It should say rename.
Okay.
Click
Settings?
participants and you'll be at the top, you'll be the top name on the participant list.
Yeah.
And then you click on your name and rename should be one of the options.
Okay, I'm just not saying, I'm on settings here, I'm trying to find.
No, not in settings, just on the bottom menu, there's participants.
Menu, okay,
Just under the faces, you see the where it says participants.
yeah,
You can also click the three dots if you put your cursor over your picture box.
And it looks, we also have someone dialing in. It looks by phone. Their number ends in 5991. If you wouldn't mind just identifying yourself,
I think they have to press *6 to unmute.
that may be true, yes. Oh, they've raised their hand.
Hi,
got the invite link for
hi.
me.
This is Derry on 5991.
Got it. Thank you, Derry. So Derry Allen, for those of you
And
who don't know, one of the members of the committee.
I'm driving up in Connecticut, and it's pouring rain, so I may lose you, but I'm going to stick on for at least a while, as long as it seems to work.
All right, sounds good, Derry, and focus on the driving rather than us. Unless
Yeah,
you're a passenger.
absolutely.
And I
Yep.
see Christophe has joined us. As predicted, I was giving you the couple of minutes delay because I know you often get stacked up in meetings. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me. How are you
Why
doing?
don't now that Christophe is here, Christophe is our usual, and we have a pretty good set of people as our usual practice. Why don't we start with you with any updates? I know that there are a couple of things we had some questions about, but why don't you go first, and then we'll turn to those questions.
Yeah. Um, well, for just personal updates, first and foremost, I would like to announce that I will be leaving the District Department of Transportation
Oh,
in early August. My last day will be August 7th.
What?
I'll be sending out an email shortly in this week or early next week with plans for, my backfill during the time when they find someone to replace me. Um, and I'll be sharing, a transition document, so I want to connect with everyone on issues that I can pass along. But I'm excited to be heading to Berlin to continue my education, doing urban planning over there at Technical University of Berlin. So, but yeah, that's my news. And yeah, of course, I wanted to share that so you guys are all aware. But this will be my last ANC 3D meeting, transportation meeting, which is, bittersweet. And so I really appreciate all of the work that you guys do in being committed to transportation in the district. I wish that all ANCs were as committed because um, you really help us move our message and are really good partners in the community for the work that we're doing. So thank you. Um,
well, thank Christophe. Thanks. Thank you for being here for the last whatever it's been 2 years now, I guess, or thereabouts. We'll miss you. Congratulations. Sounds like a great opportunity.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure Berlin will be an exciting place to learn about urban and transportation design kinds of issues. So,
Definitely.
Andrew Beath, did you want to interject or want to let Christophe get off his updates? I know you wanted to ask a question about
Sure,
something.
yeah, let him continue and then I'll jump in later. Thanks.
Okay, well, for DDOT updates, I know we had issued an NOI, notice intent for parking on MacArthur Boulevard in front of the CVS. So I believe the ANC 3D will be maybe voting on that this month, or has already voted. I'm not sure. And then or we will be discussing it in this meeting. And then likewise, we've been working on the blocks of reservoir
Christophe, could I just pause on that, the NOI?
Yes.
So there were a couple questions. One is, and I had asked you this by email and you had a response, which was the ANC's request was to put the loading zone towards the back, towards the southeast end of that stretch, and have metered parking or pay to park closest to the intersection, in part because of where, visibility questions. You told me that, well, it was easier because of the way the signage is existing, just to do it the other way. There's some concern about the trucks parking right at the corner and potentially reducing visibility of both the crosswalk and traffic at the U Street intersection. I don't know if you had an answer for that, but I'll let you do that in a minute. But I want to say, I don't think the ANC is meeting in August, and the September meeting will be after the deadline for the NOI. So it may be, if there's an extension possible, that would allow the ANC to comment if it wished to.
Yeah, we can easily extend it for to the month of September for the ANC to comment.
We would definitely want to do that because
Okay, so yeah, so it's the second is the next meeting, Tricia?
Yes, Wednesday the 2nd.
Okay, so I don't know if you have control of these things, but maybe that Friday the 4th or the following, like Tuesday, I guess, because Monday's probably a holiday. Is that possible, Christophe?
Yep, I will let our curbside team know about that.
Okay, great. Anyway, so back to the substance. I don't know if you had any further information you were able to share about the reasoning for why the trucks would be closest to the intersection, or the loading zone would be closest to the intersection.
So the reason why we put it there was, I think, in the past, and the signs will be updated now to reflect. There was in the past a metered parking zone with already a park mobile area that was associated with it. And so whenever you create a new meter parking area, we also need to create a park mobile zone. And so just because it'd be easier for us to use that existing zone and just expand it, I believe that's why we put it there, rather than switch the locations, since that already corresponded with an existing meter parking area.
Okay.
All right.
And I understand your concerns around the sight lines at the intersection. That's something that I'll bring up to the team.
How onerous is slightly moving a park mobile zone?
I think that this was just something that, from our curbside team, that was like, from their expertise, they figured that would be the easiest. But if that's something that the ANC really wants, is to push for it to be swapped, that's definitely something we can
And
do.
I feel like because it's the commercial loading, isn't it the commercial loading that we'd be switching with the parking? The commercial loading, you can park there, after the commercial loading zone hours are done. There's a school there. I just don't like the idea of those big trucks. Like the OLV kids are crossing there.
Okay.
River School's right
Yeah.
there. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of the big trucks there blocking
Okay.
the sight of the intersection. So I'm fairly
I know
certain
that.
that our
Okay.
comments to the NOI are gonna say that.
That sounds good. I know that our team also met and talked with the business, and so it's possible that the business preferred to have it closer to the intersection, maybe for like pulling in and pulling out of the spot. But
Oh, that could be for
Yeah.
sure.
but I think that, like, you were raising a very good point, that this is something we should consider, and so we can bring it back up to the business and see what they say.
Thank you.
Thanks. Since if you'll indulge me on this topic, I just want to make sure, are there other members of the Transportation Committee or members of the public who want to weigh in on this specific issue here? I think that we might get a letter together, Tricia, for the ANC to comment on the NOI, but rather than just being Tricia and me asking questions of others. I know, Andrew, you had sent a picture of the trucks parked at that corner, which suggested, and I shared that with Christophe, that suggested the very visibility issue that we were talking, but yeah, you're welcome to emphasize that, or if anyone else has a thought. All right, sounds like not, which I'll take along with Tricia as transportation committee support, or at least non-opposition to the possibility of an ANC letter saying, can you flip it, and then let DDOT sort that out. Sorry, so Christophe, you were going to, I think, talk about Reservoir Road next.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that, we've been doing the repaving, and along with repaving, we've been doing some curb and gutter work, and I think we also did some repairs to some curb cuts um on Reservoir Road. And I believe that the ANC and some of the residents have been in communication with our paving team regarding some of the outstanding sidewalk repair requests and safety improvements that the ANC would like along Reservoir Road. I'd just like to reiterate that these safety improvements will not be accomplished or completed as part of the repaving. Repaving is just going to do, the asphalt, curb and gutter work on Reservoir Road. And the safety improvements is another team entirely. If our paving team started doing safety improvements across the city, it would just be a conflict over what our work plans are. And so there's also a possibility that, when we're doing the safety improvements, that we want to look holistically at everything that's impacting this area. So we're gonna look at the signage. We're gonna look at um, potentially automated safety enforcement, look at what else we can install. And so that's going to be a different team, and that's going to be assessed through our traffic safety input program.
So, Christophe, understanding the point, you don't want the paving teams just off doing safety improvements. The other way around can't be true, right? I mean, it seems unfortunate that the ANC last year requested certain things, and I think Andrew Beath is going to talk to this a bit, like bulb outs. That's precisely the kind of thing that could have been integrated into this project relatively easily. And now it's like, what are you going to come along right after this and tear it up, put in a bulb out? I mean, it just seems like this is a great opportunity, and now that's gone, right? I guess that it's just sort of, I mean, I know it's not you, but it seems like a process problem in DDOT for that not to have been communicated in the process of doing this. It's just like when the utilities come through and dig up a newly paved road because they have to go access a pipe because they didn't, and DDOT didn't know that they were going to be doing the work.
Right. And I mean, so point is well taken. I think that when we're doing our repaving work, we have to use the plans. It would be very complicated to coordinate all the different teams that are doing work and that are doing safety improvements, corridor projects, and really it's just the best to keep our work plan moving to always make sure that we're doing exactly what we are replacing, and in some cases upgrading a low or like a crosswalk, in this case, to a high visibility crosswalk. And so that's like kind of the extent to the safety improvements that we will do. Um, but besides that, we're not out here there, or our paving team's not doing the bulb outs that you were referring to. But I understand, the complaint, and I can pass it along. Um,
Andrew Beath,
Yeah,
and
just
thanks, Christophe. I mean, I've made the point. Hopefully, you'll share it.
okay. Yeah, and look, I mean, congrats, Christophe. I've very much enjoyed working with you, and it sounds like a fantastic opportunity, and I'm very envious. Berlin's a fantastic city, so I'm sure you'll have a fun and very productive time there. And look, I mean, I do want to, I don't want to sort of come off too much the wrong way, because certainly the work on upgrading the crosswalks under this repaving program is very much appreciated, as is the fixes to the curb. But that being said, it is frustrating, right? ANC, I mean, I've been concerned and making noise about the safety hazards along this road for many years now. ANC sent a letter with very specific safety recommendations 6 months ago. And really, I mean, I think I would like to say in a more functional agency, those recommendations would have come under the consideration of whoever was planning this repaving project, right? We know that one of the poor state of the roadway in this block has been one of the only factors which has been limiting the speeds of vehicles on this block. Now that it's been repaved, that road has become a racetrack, right? So we have cars speeding even faster coming down that hill, entering into a school zone in front of the lab, crossing intersection that's very complex, that's has a lot of pedestrian traffic. And so we've essentially, as a result of this repaving project, magnified the safety issues that this road has, right? And so the cart really has been put in front of the horse here. And it because of the improvements which the ANC recommended that would have addressed these safety problems have not been done. And, we have no timeline, no idea, no indication of when these safety improvements would occur. It could be years from now, right? When it would have been relatively simple and efficient from a public finance standpoint for those bulb outs, the other improvements to be incorporated under this project. So, sort of as a resident, as a taxpayer, and as someone with young children who lives on this block, I'm really upset about how this project has been conducted. So, I mean, again, I know it's not you, but you've been a wonderful partner for us, but I would very much appreciate if you could convey this to your colleagues in your management in the strongest possible terms, that this is
Hey,
frankly a little bit outrageous.
Christophe, yeah. So
Andrew,
could I just make one final point?
If you make one, if it's about the striping, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing is okay, so road striping is a safety measure, right? So the repaving was completed on July 3rd, right? The road has still not been repaved, right? We have no median, we have no crosswalks that have been painted. We have no painted median, we have no painted crosswalks, we have no painted parking spaces, right? The road is extremely unsafe without those, right? The road looks like a runway at this point. So please, and I've sent a letter to Victor, the project engineer, requesting this, received no response whatsoever. That needs to be expedited as soon as possible because it's extremely hazardous in its current state. If DDOT doesn't want to or cannot paint it, then just put down bollards, plastic bollards, whatever they are, so that plastic cones, whatever, so that we have some measure of safety. So thank you for indulging me on this, but I'm concerned about where we are at the moment.
So Christophe, given that you're headed out the door of DDOT, you can go off on your management with no repercussions. Hopefully you will on this.
I'll let them know the attitudes towards the process for repaving. But yeah.
Did you have anything else, Christophe? I had one thing I wanted to raise that I had emailed you about, but
yeah, I saw your email. I don't have details on this removal. It was regarding a bus stop removal. Hopefully you can expand on it.
Sure. So I mean I can, and I'm happy to take this offline just in the interest of time. So the D96 is a bus that it comes down Cathedral Avenue and then goes down New Mexico to Glover Park and then downtown. It goes from Bethesda there. The stop at the corner of New Mexico and Cathedral, which was the one that comes close to serving Wesley Heights, was removed, at least for purposes of stopping for the D96. It's still a bus stop for a different bus route. The reason apparently is that the drivers have been having a problem making the left turn. Understand why that could be a problem. WMATA told Tricia and me that they were working with DDOT to come up with a solution so they could reinstall the bus stop nearby, right? Either some sort of striping or not. So it sounded like a WMATA DDOT coordination issue, and wanted to see where things were from DDOT's end, because it is, you have to, the closest bus stop is a good walk, either uphill or some length. for any, it basically doesn't stop in the Wesley Heights area anymore. So wanted to check on that. If you don't have information about that, if you can in your last couple of weeks, see what you can do to chase that. That would be appreciated, just so we don't go months until your replacement comes on and can help us.
Of course.
Okay, so I think that does it for DDOT updates. Mark, you wanted to talk a bit about, or ask a bit about traffic studies. Hopefully Christophe can help us with some of those questions.
Yeah, so it's really a return to things we've talked about, Christophe, before. But there are definitely neighbors in my SMD who are interested in requesting speed humps, raised crosswalks, other traffic calming measures. And I think when we've talked about this before, DDOT's position has been we will consider those on a case-by-case basis, block by block. Okay, fine. My questions are just help this commissioner be up to speed on what those procedures are. So if neighbors on my block want to request a speed hump, just literally what are the steps? And I asked because I Googled a little bit and found some PDF documents about questionnaires and DDOT procedures for traffic calming studies, and I think they may be out of date. So, because I can't find an actual web page that that discusses them, so I wanted to tee that up for you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
And by the way, and congratulations on
yeah, no, thank
on
you.
your personal news.
Appreciate it. This is something that I've done many times, so I'm happy to share about this program. And I think the commission is already very familiar with our TSI program, but that is how you request speed bumps, raised crosswalks through DDOT. This is our traffic safety input program. This is our new dashboard. And so this basically allows you to kind of like understand the program. That is a public feedback program that allows anyone in the public. It allows ANC reps, community groups, residents, council members to submit a traffic safety concern. And I will frame it from the beginning. It does not matter who submits it. They're all weighted equally on the front end. And you submit it through 311. So if you click on this should take you to the 311 page. And once you're here, then you would just put in traffic safety input. Click on the service request type.
Okay.
And
We
then go
kind
through
of
that
know
whole
what-
process.
Yeah.
So-
So let me. So like if the request is a speed hump,
Yeah.
my understanding is that triggers something that leads to that there's a requirement of essentially a petition on that block or a vote on that block. How does that work? Is that something that DDOT initiates once the 311 is required, or can that be done?
I'm not sure where that is written, but that is not our process anymore for speed humps. We have a lot of requirements and criteria for vertical traffic calming based off of like roadway classification. So if it's a local road, arterial road, then it also matters whether there's a bus route that's on that road. Will depend if it's a speed bump or a speed table. There's considerations around drainage that we have to look at, distance between driveways, because they can't be located, I think, more than 5 feet from a driveway. So sometimes there's blocks that just have so many curb cuts and driveways that it's just
All right.
not reasonable.
Okay, but what you're saying is DDOT is no longer doing like a
But we
petition.
no longer do
Okay, okay.
but we
That's
no
good
longer do a
information.
survey because I think in some cases, if it's like a very contentious, if we send out in the notification, okay, we're gonna install a speed bump, and the ANC comes back and this says, we there's a lot of people that aren't in favor of the speed bump, then they have to put in like I think some kind of survey that and I think this is through the ANC to show that over 50% of the block is not in support of the speed bump.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good to know.
But our process right now is like unless we're seeing overwhelming opposition to the speed bump, we're going in to install it because it's just our standard safety improvement.
Okay. But the request has to get through the TSI process first in competition
right.
with all the other TSI requests. Okay.
Right.
I think I'll,
So Christophe, if I could follow up. So understanding the TSI process, that's done on a block by block basis. And one of the challenges, I think this is what this area implicates that Mark is talking about, which is it's not limited to one block. It's, 3 or 4 blocks in one direction and 4 or 5 blocks in another direction where there's common patterns of speeding, common patterns of cut through traffic during rush hour. Does the TSI process require basically every block of that neighborhood to put in a separate TSI saying the same thing? Or is there a way to put in a TSI that covers, a multi-block area?
or let's put this another way. If there are a lot of TSI requests in a multi-block area, does that help
Yeah.
increase the priority for action within that neighborhood?
So I'll answer your question first, Commissioner Blumenthal.
Yeah.
No, having more TSIs does not increase the likelihood that your intersection or TSI will be selected. It does, however, allow us, if it's a different type of concern, it allows us to have, more input on what are the concerns.
Okay.
Then also if the ANC submits a resolution, then that resolution, which has happened many times in ANC 3D, that resolution gets attached to all the TSIs that are in that intersection or block so that is then reviewed when any TSI is selected. So that, it's aware that, the ANC and residents support these safety improvements. And that really helps guide our engineers as to what the community would like to see. But the actual process for selecting is not impacted. Now, Andrew, I believe you asked about is it possible to do multiple blocks? So we do try and do a holistic look at a location. But that typically is maximum 1 block. So we aren't looking at a whole corridor or a whole neighborhood, for example. But we will cluster a bunch of TSIs that are in 1 block or 1 intersection. And that allows us to take all of those concerns and look at it holistically.
All right.
And so
is there a mechanism though?
There is a mechanism for looking at neighborhoods. We have a team that does neighborhood mobility studies. And they're currently doing one in Ward 8. I think it's ANC 8B. And I think they're actually presenting on it now, but that is a process that we've done. I think it's called NSAMS, Neighborhood Small Area Mobility Studies. That is something that you can advocate for Palisades, and for your different neighborhoods that, it is considered for NSAMS. And there isn't really, I'm not as well versed in the selection process for NSAMS, but I can put the ANC in contact with the program manager for that program.
I think that would be useful, Christophe, to at least have that contact information. It sounds like it's handled separately from TSIs. Whether that's the appropriate tool in this case? I don't know. I mean,
I,
that's something.
I think it's the most appropriate tool for what you are looking for and what the ANC has communicated to me, which is that there's lots of small requests and small improvements across the entire neighborhood for safety. And instead of just waiting for every single TSI to get selected in each of these different blocks, this is looked at and addressed across the entire neighborhood.
Right.
Mind you,
And
like
and you know, you
Beath,
put it in a speed hump on one road, everybody goes to the next road over, so it doesn't really address the pro. I mean, it solves the problem for one road, but then the other road bears the burden, right?
right? Yeah, and so um, in in the case of NSAMs, they have the same toolbox as our TSI program. So it's not like you're going to get different treatments, but they look at it all at the same time, and then they will produce a report for all the safety improvements. And um, yeah, I mean, I think that that may be something that the ANC would be more interested in pursuing. But of course, TSI remains our way of addressing these kind of block by block.
Okay. Mark Maves.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused, but I don't want to be terribly redundant here. But when we were doing Kent Corner, it was done as a neighborhood as opposed to block. So I would reinforce the process to allow us to do that since it's a neighborhood problem that they're trying to address.
Can someone fill me in on the context for Can Corner?
Well, Mark, you can, or I
Mark, do you
can.
want to do it or
Yeah.
Well,
or sorry,
both named
Mark or
Mark.
Mark Maves.
Mark or
I'll take a
Mark?
crack, and Mark
Yeah.
Maves, you jump in if I get it wrong. 10 years ago,
Okay.
there was a neighborhood in our ANC. There was a petition circulated requesting a traffic study, and the neighbors agreed that they were looking to get essentially no through traffic signs or better diversion of traffic off of their streets onto the main road. And DDOT responded at the time by promising a neighborhood traffic study. For the whole thing, a consultant was hired. I think our council member at the time was involved. There was a delay. Everyone got mad. There was ultimately a study done and changes were implemented. But there was a sort of a neighborhood-wide petition at the beginning of it that I think was following the then DDOT procedure for this, where there was a standard petition type that you could download and fill out. So since the procedures appear to have all changed, I don't know how relevant that history is to the dilemma we face. But I mean, I totally agree with the other Mark that we would prefer a neighborhood-wide approach than going TSI by TSI, block by block, because that would be a mess.
In the interest of time, I'd like to move on from this topic just as the timekeeper. Is that okay? Sorry.
I think Tricia, that's fine. I think Christophe, you know what we're talking about. So if you can get us in touch with the right people, we did just locate the website while you and others were talking. But if there's sort of a contact person and someone we could maybe talk to about how one would initiate it and what would be useful to make it an attractive candidate, that would be great.
We
Yeah,
did
of
have a
course.
pedestrian get struck by a car here, so I think that moves you up the TSI.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a good. Let's wait until something bad happens. Okay. So Tricia, I think we're on to the St. Pat's presentation and discussion.
Yes.
Sherry, do you want to lead it, or Jamie? I mean, we're sort of putting it over your hands. And Christophe, if you drop off again, from all of us, thank you so much. But would love you to stay for this too, because it's all transportation issues. If you're able,
I will stay. I'm just gonna turn off my.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So
Thank
we'll
you.
say goodbye at the end of the call again then.
All right.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to actually turn it over to Jeline Spain-Thomas, who's the head of school for St. Patrick's,
Oh,
and
sure.
then she'll also introduce Jamie. So
Thank you, Sherry. I feel like I should join everyone in saying congratulations, Christophe. We wish you the best. I'm Jeline Spain-Thomas, head of school at St. Patrick's. We are pleased to join the ANC Transportation Committee again this month as we continue to move our application for a permanent middle school on Whitehaven Parkway through the ANC and BZA process. Our primary purpose today will be to address follow-up questions regarding the transportation plans presented at last month's meeting. Before I pass the virtual mic over to our transportation engineer, Jamie Mlanovich, I would like to briefly address two additional topics: safety concerns on Hoban Road and the request for a stop sign, as well as the continued discussion regarding the use of our Foxhall field. Concerning our Foxhall field, first, I want it to be clear that it is our ultimate goal to allow for broader use of our field, which would include expanded third-party use. Our Episcopal tradition calls us to care for young people and be thoughtful members of our community. Those values guide our approach as we work to balance opportunities for children with the commitments we've made to our neighbors. At the same time, we take seriously the commitments we have made to our neighbors through the existing community agreement. We do not see this as an either-or issue. We believe it is possible to support children, be a good neighbor, and work collaboratively toward solutions that respect all stakeholders. St. Patrick's remains committed to constructive dialogue and to maintaining the trust and relationships we have built with the Foxhall community. As for the Hoban Road stop sign, we want you all to know that physical safety is among our highest priorities for our students, families, neighbors, and everyone who travels through the neighborhood. St. Patrick's strongly supports the proposed stop sign on Hoban Road and other measures that improve pedestrian and traffic safety. We have continued to advocate for this improvement, including meeting with DDOT and Councilmember Fruman's Chief of Staff to help move that conversation forward. We appreciate the collaboration of the ANC, DDOT, and community members, and we remain committed to working together on solutions that make our neighborhood safer for everyone. I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Jamie.
Great, thanks, Jeline. So I actually don't have any new material to present this afternoon. We went through a pretty comprehensive presentation last month, but I know that committee members had some follow-up questions, which we responded to via email, and just wanted to take the opportunity, if there's any further questions or further clarification. I do have our presentation from last month teed up, which I'm happy to share the screen if there's any particular issues that you all would like to sort of revisit, and you know, I'm here to answer any questions or provide any clarifications for any of those issues that you might have.
Jamie, if I could go back for a moment on the stop sign, understanding St. Pat's support for it. I understand from the materials you sent, a TSI has been submitted already by the neighborhood, someone in the neighborhood for that stop sign, right?
That's correct.
So it's in DDOT's hands. I don't know if
Yes.
Christophe has an update. I don't think St. Pat's can just put in its own stop sign. It's
That's correct. Unfortunately, we
DDOT
cannot,
has to make a determination whether it's appropriate in the context, and that process is happening as much as it happens with any other TSI, of which there are many.
Correct. And we understand from DDOT that they expect to have their investigation of that issue completed at the end of this month.
Okay.
Oh, so we should know pretty soon if they're going to put a stop sign in, or let us.
That's the hope.
project.
Like I said,
Okay.
yeah, we heard from them 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they said they expected it to be done at the end of this month. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's something that we could, you know, and this isn't necessarily something St. Pat's has to request, but maybe the neighbors, that if neighbors thought an ANC letter would help, whether the ANC should send one supportive of that TSI, although it may be an NOI by that point. So
Hi there. My name's Anita Butani, and I'm the president of the HOA at 1801 Foxhall, and I'm also a member of the Colony Hill Neighborhood Association. And I thank you so much for asking that question, Andrew. Since we do have Christophe on the line, although maybe he walked. Hi, Christophe. Could you share a little bit about how neighbors can assist in advocating for the stop sign on Hoban, and also if you have any insight on where the TSA is? A lot of the issues that came up in the earlier discussion around traffic safety, pedestrian safety, sight lines, and even it didn't specifically come up, but Vision Zero really all come together on this stop sign. It's a downhill racetrack right now that cuts between Foxhall and Reservoir. And we have quite a lot of families who go to OLV, who go to St. Patrick's, who go to Key, a lot of different folks in this neighborhood with young children who love to run across the street to play at each other's houses. And it's really dangerous with all the cut throughs.
So thank you for bringing back into the discussion. So we already had selected a TSI for a study in Q3 of 2026 for Hoban. So our engineers are in the process of evaluating whether it is feasible to install a stop sign, whether it's warranted. And so at this point in the process, we've received the community support for the stop sign. At this point, it's really a determination of whether these meet our warrants for the number of volume of cars that are using this intersection, and then also pedestrians that are using the intersection. And we weight both of those. If they meet our warrants for a stop sign, then that will be our recommendation.
And if DDOT decides against it, again, just we're trying to game out how this could go. What can the community do to sit down with DDOT to discuss that decision or explore other options? I know that one option that came up for discussion is a speed table or a speed hump, which of course is significantly more expensive than a stop sign, like an order of magnitude more expensive. And we are all about not having to have the District of Columbia spend more money than is necessary. Is there a follow-up opportunity for community?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it turns out that we cannot install and it doesn't meet the warrants for a stop sign, we'll evaluate other traffic safety improvements to install. Sometimes we're looking at vertical traffic calming, like speed humps. Sometimes we're looking at having if there's a lot of pedestrians there and it doesn't meet the stop sign requirements, we'll look at having rapid rectangular flashing beacons, which are like the signs that have flashers on them to let you know that, when a pedestrian can push it, to let cars know that they're crossing. So stuff like that can be considered as an alternative. We can have potentially installing flex posts as well to improve sight lines and to narrow the roadway so that cars are less encouraged to speed when they're moving through the intersection. So there's different safety improvements that we can consider, and happy to, if it turns out that we do not recommend to have a stop sign, happy to connect the community with our team to have another discussion.
Thank you.
Anything else on the stop sign point? I mean, I think we've covered it. Thank you, Christophe, for that explanation. And it sounds like we're getting close to a decision point. So while it may not be with you around, your successor or whoever will hopefully help facilitate any further discussions that are necessary. We also had the field use. Tricia, did you want to talk about that? Because I think that it sounds like that topic is coming up now, even though it's not really well, I mean, it's sort of a transportation issue, but Tricia may have stepped away.
If I could comment on that,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Ed Lyle, I'm acting president of the CHNA Association. I was involved 20 years ago in the negotiations between our association on the one hand and the developer of the overall site where the field is and the houses are now, and also with the school in negotiating restrictions on the school's use of that area. I'd just like to point out, first of all, as I understand, there's been some concern about whether ANC was involved in that process. And it definitely was involved. If one looks at the opinion and order of the Board of Zoning Adjustment, BZA, you'll see that there was extensive involvement by the ANC on all the questions regarding the field. And we have a very good relationship with the school. We appreciate the school's approach to us on this. It's been very positive. And we are currently in discussions with them involving various aspects of the field. But the main point I want to make here is that if there's any concern about, the field and what was happening 20 years ago, the ANC was fully involved in it. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Others on this topic?
Yeah, I was wondering, Mr. Lyle, would it be possible for you to provide the ANC with a copy of the agreement that your association made with the school 20 years ago?
Yes, with that, and also I have the BZA order if you want that also, if you don't have it.
We were able to pull it up off of the Office of Zoning website. If you go into the square, the SSL for the field, it's there. It's under the case number from 20 years ago. So they've uploaded the agreement and actually all the exhibits.
So at the last ANC meeting, the school said that this agreement was confidential and that they would not be sharing it with the ANC. And I just want to make sure we're talking about the same agreement here. Is that, I mean,
we are talking about somebody.
I can't comment for the school, but
I mean, I think maybe Mr. Keenan, I was want to say, like I said, if all parties to that agreement are comfortable with providing that agreement to the ANC, then we on behalf of St. Patrick's have no problem. And so what is in the BZA is not in the BZA filed from BZA case number 17429, was just an exhibit to that agreement. It was the operations plan. It became exhibit 86 of that agreement. I think what the ANC is requesting is the full agreement between 1801, CHNA, and then the applicant and the developer of the at that time back in 2006.
All right.
So I'm very unclear as to why the Office of Zoning has not uploaded that, because
it was not submitted. The agreement itself was not submitted during that BZA case. Just the operations plan component of that.
Do we know why?
Because the BZA typically says that they only want to address issues that they believe are relevant to the zoning standards that are proposed. So if there are things sometimes that are not related to what they think are the standards of approval of a private school in an R1 zone, that not create objectionable impacts due to noise, traffic, number of students, or other objectionable conditions, they will say, we only want to put in the record those elements that are relevant to the BZA's relief standards.
All right, I will talk to the school about this. And
yeah, so if we get all the relevant parties to that agreement in agreement that the agreement can be shared with the ANC and made public, that would be helpful.
I'm surprised that the ANC doesn't already have a copy of it, because the ANC was very much involved in those negotiations from 20 years ago. Okay. I know Bob Avery wanted to join. He's the chair of the FCCA, as I'm sure you all know. He did want to join for this meeting, but he has, like Ed, a lot of the history there. And if the ANC doesn't have a copy, they absolutely should have a copy. Certainly 1801 Foxhall has no issue with that. And I'll let Ed opine for CHNA since he's the president there.
Ed, any objection from CHNA?
I will talk to the school. I'd like to have a discussion with them about this. It has not come up before taking a position on this issue.
Okay. All right. So 1801 is fine with it. CHNA and the school will talk about disclosing it. I don't think it really matters why the ANC doesn't have a copy. I don't think the ANC's records necessarily are perfect, but it's 20 years ago. So if there is an agreement the ANC seems to want, I don't think we need to go too far around on this. We're trying to get to a solution of having this agreement publicly available if it's something that actually implicates some of the issues that are up. All right. Nick, I think on the last call you gave a good explanation of why it's important to be able for St. Pat's to be able to expand the public use of their field. So if you want to repeat it, fine, but I'd ask you to be brief, but no need. All right. Sorry for that little diversion, but Jamie, back to you after a little bit of a delay.
Sure. Are there any specific questions? I know, Andrew, you guys had sent around some questions that I
I believe I have
revisit.
the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, Nick, I was asking if you had an additional point to make. Sorry, you didn't jump back in.
Oh, I thought that you had asked me to summarize what I had said the last meeting.
Well, I don't need you to summarize it. If you wanted to repeat it, but crisply, just in the interest of time. I think the point was well made, and it's been made, and we get it. I don't disagree. I just didn't want to take up more time rehashing it.
Okay.
But if there's something else, go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean just that the use of the field, the use of the field is not just an issue for the immediate neighbors. It's one that affects the entire ANC, and that this secret agreement is highly, highly unusual, and pretending that it somehow binds the ANC is just absolutely preposterous. And I'm hoping that we can at least get a copy of this and and see what it is we're talking about. So
okay.
And
oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, I mean, I feel like the school has a duty of candor here, and they're kind of falling down on that with the way they're approaching this agreement.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the parties who want to maintain this agreement can find a way to agree to disclose it, because the ANC seems to be very interested in that. I fear we're getting a little off the transportation specific issues. I know it's all a package. Nick, points well taken. I think at the last ANC meeting there was a fair amount of discussion of this, and I think St. Pat's has a sense of where the ANC is. I don't want to characterize it, but they're obviously, I think many of the commissioners shared Nick's concerns. All right.
Sorry.
Now we're definitely going
I'm
to Jamie.
confused, and I apologize because I was not on the last ANC meeting, and I see Tricia's raising her hand. I just want to be really clear. I'm not aware of a secret agreement that pertains to the field, everything that has to do with the field is governed by the operating agreement that is uploaded as an exhibit, and I've checked it. It's exactly the same exhibit that we have that is reflected in the. So I just want to say, I apologize that there's an impression that there's something like some secretiveness going on. And I'm happy to give you my cell phone number if you ever want to talk to me about it.
Anita, appreciated. And I mean, it seems a little odd that we can't even agree if there's an agreement that is public or non-public. If there is a public, document that you would like to share with the Transportation Committee and the ANC, please send it our way. That might preclude a lot of additional.
So I would appreciate I appreciate that comment. I would appreciate very much if somebody could, with the school, could verify that that is also their belief of the situation. And maybe we can straighten this all out right now.
I'm happy to jump in. I'm Rebecca Kim. I'm the Chief Financial and Operations Officer. What Anita's represented and what Paul said as well, that is in the old BZA filing, are all the operation terms related to the Foxhall field.
Okay, so
there's nothing extra regarding the Foxhall field that is beyond that you wouldn't know about by reading what is in that BZA filing.
So this is Commissioner Duncan talking. It is, and I really would like some clarification on this, because what we heard from the St. Patrick's team was that, yes, what is in that BZA order is what governs the field. But we were saying, okay, so if during this BZA process, the ANC advocated for those terms to be changed, you still have a written agreement with the neighbors that you believe supersedes what is in that BZA. So even if the BZA came and said, yes, under the BZA terms, which is enforceable, with the ANC and with the city, you can open up this field. But St. Patrick's was saying, if we have this side agreement that's been signed, and Anita, I think this is where the ANC thinks that there's this agreement that we actually haven't seen.
I haven't seen it either, so
yeah, that would
love to see it.
That would supersede what the BZA order is. But what I'm hearing here today is that we're all just going to be following what the BZA says in the future. However this turns out, we're doing what the BZA says. Is that what we're saying?
That's basically the operative agreement here, yes. Let me say this. I was the one that negotiated with the CHNA with the school. Okay.
Okay.
And what Anita is telling you is true. The things which affect the field are in the operating agreement. Okay, I've got to talk to the school about the rest of it. I haven't done that yet. But in that, it basically says one of the terms that we negotiated was conserving the use of the field by third parties. If you look at that agreement, you should see in there what those terms are in that operating agreement. If there's anything more, we will let you know. But there's no side agreement which supersedes what the BZA did. The BZA acted, as you will see in its order, it considered that operating agreement, okay? And we have no authority to override what the BZA ultimately did with regard to it. So that BZA order and the operating agreements attached to it is basically the law for purposes of this discussion.
Okay, so we are doing a BZA modification through this project. So are we all in agreement that what ends up in that new BZA order is going to supersede anything else that's out there?
I mean, that's how
I'm operating.
That's my understanding of how I used to be the vice chair of the BZA, so let me just say that's my understanding of how the BZA works, and that's part of the importance of the ANC process. The BZA gives great weight to the ANC. OP considers the ANC's opinion, and that's why we feel that the ANC is very important in this process, and that's why Pierre, who's been the representative on behalf of CHNA, and myself have had many conversations with JP Simkowitz, who's our ANC commissioner. And I believe we've also spoken with Marilyn, who's the commissioner for the area where the middle school is going to be located. And they have told us about their concerns regarding the operating agreement. And, frankly, we are working very hard to address those concerns. And, it's a little bit of it's a nuanced process where we're trying to make sure that the school has the flexibility that it needs during the construction period, and is aware of the issues that CHNA and 1801 Foxhall have around a more intensive use of that field. And the school has been great about talking with us about that, and it has been really reassuring. And as a result of that, I think the neighborhood is moving in the direction that everybody wants it to go in. So I assume that in the ANC meeting, the school described that there's sort of like an interim agreement that's going to happen that would be part of a BZA order. That would be the enforcement mechanism. And so it's going to be very important that whatever we negotiate with St. Patrick's comes before the ANC so that you guys can opine on it. And hopefully when you see it, you'll agree that it's, really threading that needle of making sure that the facility is used appropriately and available appropriately is how I would say it. And I'm happy to discuss further, or we can leave it at that.
Andrew, I do.
So I think it would be helpful. So go ahead, Commissioner.
Nick, yeah, you let
I
Tricia.
I just want to say, I have said all I want to say about the field, but I do have a number of questions about the CTR that I want to reserve some time for.
Yeah, I think we should try to move on to that, and maybe we can.
Can I just add? I feel like I have one really, Andrew, I have one really important.
Be quick,
question.
Nick, please.
Sure. So we've had people from 1801 Foxhall and the CHNA say that their understanding is that whatever the BZA comes up with will be the resolution of this. Is that the school's understanding as well? So I just, if somebody from the school could weigh in on that.
Sure. So this is Paul Tummins, zoning counsel. We have been trying to work to make sure that the 1801 and CHNA are comfortable with these conditions. We will do that. We want to make sure that all of the community is comfortable with these conditions. If we can get to the place where the BZA establishes new conditions for this interim use of the field that both CHNA and 1801 Foxhall agree to, then Ed and I can talk about the agreement and getting that to everyone so you can review it. And then more importantly, we get to the point of saying we can come up with a list of conditions that address everyone's desires, goals for the use of this field, and that are in keeping with what Jaylene said at the beginning that it is clear to Nick. Let me finish here. That it is clear to
Paul, Nick, Paul.
I know.
I'm sorry. I need to stop this just because
he didn't answer the question I asked.
I know he didn't answer the question.
Andrew, he didn't answer the question I asked.
Nick, I know he didn't answer the question. Yes. And given this is a transportation committee meeting, not a field use meeting. Clearly, there are some questions that need to be answered on this specific topic. I would encourage.
Okay, so I'll just assume the answer is no.
1801 and St. Pat's to come up with a better explanation than we've been getting today, and maybe talk to members of the ANC before the next ANC meeting so that the story's straight. I think
Can we get the contact information for who on the ANC is having the concern? I'm happy to speak. I thought that we had spoken with JP and Marilyn and we were all on the same page, but it sounds like we're not. And I want to make sure that we are.
Yeah.
The challenge, Anita, is that we're getting different answers from different people. So you said very clearly that it's your understanding that the BZA order has all of the operating agreement. Paul just said there is another agreement that is still in place that is outside.
Let me do this then.
Sorry, Marilyn. I'm sorry to interrupt, Marilyn. It's not another agreement. All of the terms regarding the Foxhall operations are a subset. It's not a separate agreement. And to Ed's point, this goes back 20 years when we were looking at building a high school and there was a developer and there were all kinds of other things that are sort of irrelevant to the field, which is why the field, all the terms related to the field are in the BZA order. So it's not a separate agreement. It's not a separate agreement.
Yes, I think Rebecca said it very well. And the operations plan.
Okay, Paul, I'm sorry.
Andrew, you are totally right, Andrew.
Yeah.
This is
I'm sorry.
transportation.
This is going in circles right now. I am happy to facilitate, although it's really not my job because I'm really just the transportation committee co-chair, to get the folks that are particularly involved in this on a call together to try to sort this out. We're here to deal with transportation issues, and we've used up half an hour on something that's not really a transportation issue. I know it has some parking impacts. That's part of the concern. But we really do want to get to the questions. If we end up with a little time at the end, we can come back to this. But I do think I'm just hearing this. It sounds like we're talking past each other at this point, and it's not terribly productive at this moment to keep doing that in this setting. It's obviously an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't know if St. Pat's wants to talk to CHNA, 1801 and Foxhall, get their story together, and then come to the ANC, or just talk to Marilyn and Tricia and any of the other commissioners who are interested in this, JP, and get it sorted. It does need to be sorted, but not right now on this call, if that's okay. I'm sorry to be harsh, but we just seem to be going in circles on it right now, and the story isn't lining up. I do want to talk about the transportation issues. Tricia, you wanted to talk about the transportation issues. Do you want to kick that off?
Yes.
I have questions too, but I'll let you do it. You start.
So I am going to go ahead. These are mostly for Jamie. I'm going to pull up I'm looking for the CPS. Can you all see this?
Yes.
No.
Yep.
Yes.
Is it the campus unification plan? Is that what you're seeing?
I see nothing on there other than a search box and a number with no results.
That is the dashboard.
I've got too many things open for this meeting. I'm trying to get it to pop up. Anyway, well, really quick. It's page 15 on the PDF pages.
Of the
It was
CTR?
of the CTR.
Okay.
It's page 8 of the report, but 15 of the PDF pages. And there's a table there of existing levels of service. Capacity analysis. I am not a transportation person. Can you tell me the LOS and the delay and the V/C? Can you tell me what those mean?
Yeah, so the level of service is a measure of how well an intersection is performing, and we provide that for each movement. So if you see like the EBLR, that's eastbound left right lane. And then the delay is just the average delay per vehicle that's associated with that particular movement. And so that correlates to the level of service. So if you look at intersection number 1, Whitehaven, Parkway, Foxhall,
is that in seconds?
Seconds per vehicle, yes.
Okay, here it is. Okay, that's what I thought. That's an easy question. This one may seem insignificant, but on page 20, where it's talking about the safety evaluation, I think it's important that DDOT knows this when they read this report. The last sentence here where it says all of the bicycle and pedestrian crashes were categorized as minor injuries. Actually, this might be true. There was a pedestrian killed there, but it was on the other side of.
It might be outside half a mile of the site.
It might be outside half a mile. Okay.
I think the vehicular crash was the one that the woman late at night sort of ran off the road, drove off the road.
Yeah, that was that fatality.
Yeah.
Okay, this one also is because I am not an expert. What is the difference between existing conditions and background conditions?
So existing conditions are, well, in this case, it's a little bit of a misnomer because our traffic counts were conducted in 2025. So the existing conditions were based are when we do our traffic counts. And it's taken us a little while to get to this point, which is pretty common.
Totally understand.
Some bigger studies. So the existing conditions in this case represent 2025 conditions. Background conditions are where we look to the future, whatever the build out year is for the project. So in this case, when we anticipate the new middle school opening, but the background condition is that future condition without the new middle school in place. So if we just look at sort of the general traffic growth and whatever other projects are in the pipeline, what would that look like then? And then after that, we build on the middle school traffic so that we can compare the background and the total future, which is the scenario with the school, so we can isolate and identify the impacts associated with the school.
That totally makes sense to me. Thank you for explaining that. All right, so this is sort of the meat of, we can't really know how the traffic patterns are going to change. I mean, we can do our predictions, but we don't really know. And so when we talk about the monitoring, From the application, it seems like you want this 555 student enrollment cap, but you say it's going to take you several years to get there. Like when this opens up, you're probably going to be not much more than you are now, and you're going to. So when we talk about the monitoring studies, it says if we do 3 monitoring studies in 3 consecutive times, which could be annually, you don't have to do it. I think because the cap, like as we approach the cap is when we're going to see more trips. I think I'd like to slightly change that monitoring because it might be 4 or 5 years before we get to the 555. So I'm thinking maybe we could add something in there that keeps this language, but also says a vote by the ANC might trigger an ask. I feel like we need another mechanism because 3 years out, we might not be at that cap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's a fair point. I'd like to think about ways where we might be able to come up with some language that gives you the comfort level that you're seeking. And one of the things that we have in there is the quarterly meetings where, hopefully that's an opportunity for the community to come to St. Patrick's, even after if say St. Pat's has successfully met those monitoring requirements for 3 years, they still continue to hold these quarterly meetings so that if a new issue crops up, they have an opportunity to address it. So there may be a way to tie that to, if an issue comes up that isn't readily addressed at that quarterly meeting, that they have to do a monitoring study because the enrollment has increased, or I think we can come up with some language that gives you that comfort level that covers that. So I'd like to think a little bit about that and what that might look like, and then run it past you to see if that addresses your concern. But I think it's a fair point that you raised.
Yeah, so this falls like slightly short, but I think we're on the same page that if there's an issue, but this is another thing. I'm not sure the language in here of what constitute a problem. Like, is it just the ANC saying you need to reduce your trips? Or are we going to take these numbers and say you're going over this, you haven't met your 20% reduction? Is that going to be the trigger? Or are we going to have a set number of trips? Because sometimes if you stagger the trips, then your problem is solved. I guess I'm trying to protect the community in a way that is also not too onerous for St. Patrick's. But if it gets to the point where you need to be busing more, this was another question we had. If people from Maryland and Virginia are offered a bus, is that an extra fee for them? Or could it be that you have to provide busing if we go over the trips? That is included in tuition, so it's sort of a shared cost. I don't know. I'm throwing these things out, but these are the sort of things that I'm thinking about, because once we agree to this cap of 555 plus the faculty, I feel like the community loses a little bit of leverage unless we have like a tiny bit more meat in this, if that makes sense. But we're very close.
Yeah, Tricia, I was going to follow up on that, but I would be interested.
I'm done.
How the buses work now. Is that an extra fee? And does St. Pat's contemplate not having that be an extra fee? So as Tricia is saying, basically the cost is spread throughout the tuition, whatever the cost is. And I did notice that faculty can ride it for free only if there's space available. But maybe you can just elaborate a bit on how it works now and how you imagine it might work going forward.
So my understanding is that there is an additional fee currently to ride the bus for students, but maybe I'll turn it over to Rebecca and she can confirm that what I just said is true, and also if they've contemplated any changes to that policy in the future going forward.
Yes, so that is true. There's currently a fee. We are only in our 2nd year of the program, so I think we continue to refine optimal bus stops. I mean, ultimately our goal is to fill those buses with as many students as possible, and which is why I think I'm thinking of a wonderful scenario where our buses are full with students, and that's why I have to say there's only room for faculty if seats are available. And as we do so, our goal would be to sorry that my camera just went off. Our goal would be to continue to reduce the price of the bus, and add more buses, frankly. I think we've been wanting to do this for years. It's really just a question of it costs, honestly. Buses are not inexpensive to run, and also how much of an increase in tuition parents are able to bear. So we're just always trying to balance those things. But I think ultimately our goal is to make it as affordable as possible to ride the bus over time.
Yeah, no, look, I get it, and I get all those constraints, and it's one of those things though that if the bus were effectively free to every student, you would probably get more uptake, right? And you could spread the cost. But
It's funny. We do surveys of it every year, and there are always parents who say, actually, I really value the time in the car with my
Sure.
child. So I think there were always some who would still say, I'd rather drive my
you're
child.
not gonna,
But yes,
the expectation
but
is 100% usage, but on the margins, it might, I don't know what it is. If it's like, $300 a year or something, that $300 may make a difference to enough families that they're like, okay, you can ride the bus. And it may also be something where they drive their kids to school half the days and they put them on the bus the other half of the days, right?
Yes, and we see some of that now. Some more parents who take advantage of the bus in the morning than in the afternoon because the kids are doing all different kinds of things in the afternoons.
Okay, that's helpful, and I mean it might be something to think about as a more specific remedy to any failings of your plans that would, if you don't see the reductions that you're projecting, that if it's now a charge that you can promote it by reducing it or somehow encouraging it. I wanted to pick up on Tricia's point, which is, as I understand, sort of right now you have 505 people plus faculty. Sorry if I'm getting the numbers confused, and you want to basically increase it by 50. I mean, the risk strikes me as maybe running the wrong way, right? Which is that you're saying, look, we're going to implement this traffic plan, and unless it's a horror show, we can go up to 555, whenever we want, whenever we get there. And I'm wondering if it might be safer for those in the community who are concerned about the traffic to instead have it, if you can demonstrate that you can get the reductions or don't create a problem with the 500, then you get an automatic increase. I mean, not a new zoning order, not a new BZA application, but some sort of trigger based on agreed upon metrics that would, after 3 years of success, you can then increase the numbers.
That is a very interesting idea.
Do you mean that in the British way, Tricia?
No, I mean that.
So I wanted to make sure I understand, Andrew. So essentially, like we'd have language built in that says, that we would perform the monitoring study. Like they would be allowed to open on day one with a certain enrollment, whatever that is, 5, 10, whatever that number is. And then they would be obligated to do the monitoring, but they would not be able to increase it beyond that opening day amount until the monitoring demonstrated that there were no issues. Is that am I understanding?
Yes, exactly. And how the no issues is measured, let's put that to the side, but that's the general concept. The point being, your position is, look, we're gonna get a net reduction in trips. That means there's going to be no effect. And you're predicting, and good faith predictions. Okay, you're taking all these steps, but if it doesn't work out, then you're in a position, and the community's in a position of having to figure out, okay, we've created this problem that we didn't expect to create. How do we undo it? Seems a little trickier to me, and has consequences for the community in the intervening period while you figure out how to remedy it, rather than the other way around. Let's make sure it's working, and if it's working, great. Then you can expand, because we're all confident that the measures you've taken have worked, and once you get back to the increased enrollment, you're back to a position that's no worse, at least from your end of things. You're doing. I mean, obviously other things can happen, but that's not on you. I mean, that's the concept, okay? And exactly how you word that, what the triggers are, what the time frame is. I don't know. I'm throwing out a more general concept that could be discussed and sorted through with greater specificity if it's something that obviously if the ANC is interested in it, approaching it from that perspective, and St. Pat's is willing to pursue it from that perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I need to, talk with the school about that and what that would look like. I guess the only thing I would say is, the monitoring study has to continue, and there are specific strategies that we've identified that would take place if an issue comes up in the monitoring study. And part of that monitoring study, we've sort of identified two things. One is parking, and the other is the queuing impacts, where it might extend, beyond where we think it's going to extend. So in other words, if it extended to Foxhall Road or to MacArthur, those would, if either of those, if we didn't have enough parking or the queuing exceeded what we anticipated, those would trigger a continuation of the monitoring study. And first of all, they'd have to repeat it in the spring, try remedial actions, repeat it in the spring to see if those remedial actions worked, and then continue to repeat it every year until for 3 consecutive years. So in my mind, there's already like a built-in incentive for the school. I can't imagine that if they have a monitoring issue, they would want to continue to increase their enrollment, because they've got to fix that problem first, because otherwise they're just going to have to pay for this monitoring study year after year after year. So there's a little bit of that built in, but I do understand your point. So I think I want to just, like I said, talk it over with the school.
Totally fair. I'm dropping. I guess. I mean, I understand the point about a monitoring study. You don't want to have to do it. It's costly. But what we really don't want to have is the need for monitoring, right? I mean, I'm trying to come up with something that's sort of more self-enforcing, right? Which is, okay, there's a problem, you're not meeting things in whatever way. Now you got to fix it. We got to keep monitoring it. Maybe we can figure out if things are already working, and if they're not working, then you can tinker with it irrespective, right? I mean, I guess I see some of the remedial strategies as being, they seem a little non-specific and uncertain to me. If like carpool stipends, like, are you really going to move people into carpools? Well, you have to explore additional capacity on the VEX shuttle. Well, GW may not have the capacity. They've already come looking for bigger shuttle buses. Stipends to encourage people to walk or bike. But you realize there aren't too many people who can walk and bike anyway, as it is. I mean, it's things like that like, yeah, I mean, those could work, but they don't give me a huge amount of comfort that they will work. So anyway, I've made my point. I conveyed it. I think you have the idea of what I'm throwing out there, and have some thought and discussion.
I feel like we could come up with some benchmark numbers that are not onerous, that fits with St. Patrick's goals, that also gives the community like a backstop. I feel like we could come up with something.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate the comment. So let us sort of mull that over and come back with
And I was in no way suggesting onerous requirements, right? It's really like if you're meeting the targets that you say you will, great.
Can I change my questions to parking? Am I jumping ahead of any?
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm looking for raised hands. I see none. So Tricia, you just keep going.
Okay, I'm gonna go on because I've read this thing twice.
We are getting a little low on time, but let's see if we can.
It's actually a question for them. It's my understanding that you meet the minimum of parking requirements, and it's not even really. There's not a lot of neighborhoods there to park in for overflow, so everyone's going to try and fit on Whitehaven, is my understanding. My bigger concern is how the campus works when there is a chapel at the school or Bible study or whatever. Is there a reason why, like during the middle of the school day, that like a lot of schools do, that you can't park on Whitehaven? Is that a St. Patrick's thing, or is that a DDOT thing?
I don't know that I know the answer to that. So for example, in front of the lower school, that pickup drop-off lane is also a fire lane. So that's why you can't park in there in the middle of the day.
I'm not talking about there. I'm talking about like
On
Yeah.
the north side of the
along the
street.
curb. There's just no parking on Whitehaven until you get
Yeah,
way down.
Tricia, I don't believe that is a St. Patrick's dictated thing to not allow parking on
Okay,
Whitehaven there. It's a
that was
great question. Yeah, the only thing
because
Jamie mentioned carpool, the only thing that we will do is we will cone off like a small section of it to make sure that cars can line up for carpool at times, but that's really only like a smaller section that we need during those times of the day. But yeah, we have nothing to do with those signs.
okay. Because it just seems to me volunteers, visitors, there's all of these signs all over public schools where you cannot park before 9:30 and your car has to be moved by 2. Anyway, it was just something I was thinking for visitors and volunteers might be a nice option, but I don't know how we make that happen, but I might explore that too.
Yeah, I think we could definitely look into that. And I would just say, I think the rationale behind having the no parking all day long is if a car parks there and then they're parked there illegally at say 2:30 or 2:15 when the pickup, then it kind of throws a wrench into the operations for the afternoon pickup, and that can cause some operational issues and potentially some safety issues. So I think that's been sort of the rationale for why you sort of put no parking all day long. But I don't know that DDOT, if we went to them and said, look, we want to change this parking so that people can park there from, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 1 p.m., whatever the time frame is, I don't think DDOT would necessarily block that. I think they would be open to that.
That was the problem we confronted with the parking near New Mexico Avenue and the sort of the reserve for school pickup along Macomb Street. And there was a concern that if you let people park there during school hours, they wouldn't be out of there in time for school pickup. So it's like no parking at all on school days.
Yeah. And I will say, Tricia, to your point, I mean, we have tried to sort of carve out some specific spaces for both church and school visitors and volunteers. So what we've learned as we've evaluated this parking situation is a couple of things. Number one, there's a couple of spaces in the garage that are right now reserved for faculty and staff who have to travel back and forth between the middle school and the lower school. So those are like sort of 2 extra spaces, if you will, when you look at combining the school. And then we also found that there are a couple of people who, even though they have a reserved space in the garage, are actually parking in the surface lot. And so, we've developed this parking management plan where, going forward with the opening of the new middle school, you'll actually have to register your vehicle and you'll be assigned a parking space. And so you'll actually have a tag so that, if you're supposed to be parking in the garage, you are actually parking in the garage. And then in that surface lot on the east side of the church and school, we would reserve a number of spaces. I think we said 9 spaces would be reserved for church and school visitors, so that on, days when there's not like a huge event going on, that should be sufficient to accommodate, a handful of visitors or volunteers that need to be at either the church or the school. The school does have a practice of purchasing, at the beginning of every school year, validated tickets from Colonial Parking, who operate the GW garage. And then those validated tickets are available on those days where there might be a larger event going on, where there would be more visitors to either the school or the church, and they can be directed to park in the GW garage, and they're given that validated ticket so they can park free of charge over there. So,
I saw
I think, trying to reserve some number of spaces in the surface lot for those activities that on a day-to-day basis, on a normal basis would accommodate those, I think is going to help. And then again, just making sure there's coordination between the church and the school and when those events are going to happen, or perhaps when there's overlapping events. And on the school's part, you mentioned the all-school chapel, like making sure that they're communicating to their parents to park in the GW garage so that those issues don't continue to happen.
Yeah, and we provide parking maps. Karolina's team does this parking maps for parents with here's GW, this is where to go. And it is free for 3 hours. So it's been great for regular chapels and other events when there are a lot of visitors coming. I think we're very fortunate to have that resource just across the street. But the validated parking is good for all day, and we'll use that when we need to, and to make sure that the parking runs smoothly.
And it looks like you're putting bike racks on the side of the new school. Are there any going to go on the lower school side?
And there's already one or two there.
I'm gonna say we already have some on the lower school side, right
Where
outside.
are,
the
where
main
are they
doors,
on the lower school side?
right outside the main doors to the school.
Oh, to the school. Okay.
Yeah.
We need some near the church.
Well, I mean, I think I don't want to overpromise or anything, but like the actual location, because they're in public space, have to be worked out with DDOT. So we have some flexibility.
true.
We don't have to have those pinpointed for the zoning. I think that'll come later as we work with DDOT and where they'll allow us to put them in public space. But I think we could certainly explore adding one or two more on the lower school side if folks think that there's a lack of bike parking on that side of the street. I think we were just thinking more, the older kids are the more likely to ride a bike. And so providing those on that side of the street might be more beneficial, but that's not set in stone by any stretch.
Andrew, my questions are over. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? It's really been Tricia and me for the most part, but I want to make sure anyone else who has questions or thoughts gets a chance. All right, so we're a little over time. Are there next steps? Anita, I sent you and Marilyn and Tricia an email to maybe get you set together to have a conversation following up. It might expand to include others as well on the field issue.
Yeah, and I'll just loop in Ed and or Pierre from CHNA.
Okay, thank you. And on the transportation issues, Jamie and others team, we've given you some things to think about. I don't know if we'll have specific follow-up questions, but if we do, we'll try to get them to you in the next week or 10 days, something like that, for whatever it is. And then I guess there's an ANC meeting in a little over a month. All right. So we have no August Transportation Committee meeting. The next one will be in mid-September. I forget the exact date, but it should be on your calendars, hopefully accurately.
September 2nd.
Christophe, thank you so much for your time today, over the past couple of years, your efforts. Maybe you have a couple follow-ups. Hopefully you can get back to us before you depart for Berlin. But from all of us, and at least I think from all of us, best wishes. Hope it's great. Thank you again.
Thank you, Andrew.
And
And
do
thank you,
appreciate your efforts. So, all right. With that, I think we can adjourn.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.